I was 16 at the time. This happened during the summer of 1833. I lived in Moscow with my parents. For the summer, they had rented a country house near the Kaluga Gate, facing the Neskutchny Gardens. I was supposed to be preparing for university, but I didn't study much, and I wasn't in a hurry. No one restricted my freedom. I did whatever I wanted, especially after my last tutor, a Frenchman, left us. He had never gotten used to Russia. He would lie in bed for days, sulky and irritated, saying he had fallen like a bomb into the country. My father treated me with careless kindness. My mother hardly noticed me, even though I was her only child. Her mind was filled with other worries. My father, still young and very handsome, had married her for money. She was 10 years older than him. Her life was gloomy, filled with jealousy and bitterness. But she never showed it when my father was around. She feared him deeply. He, in turn, was cold, strict, and distant. I've never met a man who appeared more calm, confident, and commanding. I can never forget the first weeks at our country house. The weather was beautiful. We left town on May 9th, St. Nicholas Day. I spent my days wandering in our garden, strolling through the Neskutchny Gardens, and walking outside the city gates. Sometimes I carried a book, Kidanov's Course, for example, but I'd rarely opened it. More often, I recited poetry aloud. I knew a lot of poems by heart. My heart was restless. My blood seemed to boil. My imagination ran wild. I was full of hope, wonder, and nervous expectation, almost as if something unknown but sweet was about to happen. Sometimes I dreamed. Sometimes I grew sad. Sometimes I even wept. But behind all that sadness was the joyful sense of youth. Like fresh grass springing up through the earth. I had a horse. I would saddle it myself, ride out alone, and gallop across the fields. Imagining myself a knight at a tournament, the wind would whistle in my ears, and sometimes I turned my face to the sky, drinking in its light and endless blue. At that time, the thought of women or love had not yet taken a clear shape in my mind. Still, everything I felt was colored by a hidden sense, a half-conscious, shy anticipation of something feminine, something tender, something wonderfully new. That feeling ran through me completely. I breathed it. It flowed in my blood, and soon, that feeling would find its fulfillment. The house we rented was a wooden mansion with columns and 2 small lodges beside it. The left-hand lodge contained a tiny factory that produced cheap wallpaper. I sometimes went there and watched a dozen thin, tired boys in greasy smocks jumping on wooden levers to press out colored patterns. The lodge on the right, however, stood empty. It was for rent. Then, about 3 weeks after May 9th, its windows suddenly opened, curtains were drawn back, and women's faces appeared. A new family had moved in. I remember that same day, at dinner, my mother asked the butler who our new neighbors were. When she heard the name Princess Zasyekina, she first said respectfully, "Ah, a princess." Then she added, "A poor one, I suppose." The butler, handing a dish, replied respectfully, "They came in 3 hired carriages. They don't own one themselves, and they're furs." Here the first chapter ends, and the story continues into chapter 2.